Hello, in this video we're going to cover how to create ceilings, windows, add an elevator, add a wall parapet, as well as a basic site. So let's start with the ceilings. In order to create ceilings, on your left side of the project browser, you will have ceiling plans. Those should have already been created for you if you created levels correctly. So if you go to the first floor, and you already have PDFs outlining which ceilings go where and at which heights. And the way we're going to create ceilings is very simple. We're going to go to the ceiling area and select a standard 2x4, 2x2, or GWB on metal stud. So we're going to have only 3 options of ceilings, and I'm going to show you based on the PDF where those go. So how do we go about creating a ceiling? We're going to go to Ceiling tab under Architecture, and we can either press Automatic or Sketch Ceiling. Automatic works if you have an enclosed space, essentially if you have 4 walls and the ceiling that you're placing is lower than the top level of your walls around it. So for instance, in these locations, a placed ceiling, as you can see, the 9 feet indicates the height of the ceiling. So right now on the left side, I already have 11-foot ceiling chosen with 2x4 grid. However, and if I even hover in the middle of the enclosed area, you can see a very light red outline around the area, which indicates that the ceiling is going to be placed here. If I try to place it in the middle of the corridor, then it's going to place it in any space that is enclosed. So essentially it's going to cover the front desk, the entries, as well as the interior design collection, which I don't need. But for instance, if I want to create ceiling in the admin area, I go ahead and choose automatic ceiling, type in the exact height. In this case, I need 10 feet. I type in 10 feet, make sure that the level first floor is selected, and I choose the 2x4 grid. Once you've done this, you'll have a ceiling that looks like this. Your orientation may differ. It may be not horizontal, but vertical. If you want to select the ceiling, you can go ahead and press it, and you can change the height as well as the room bounding. Room bounding means that if you're going to move any of the walls in the left, right, or any other direction, the ceiling is going to shrink or expand as well automatically. In this case, if you want to change the compound ceiling 2x4 grid to a 2x2 grid, this is how it's going to look like. Essentially, it's a 2x2 square, but in this space, we need to have it at 2x4. So go ahead and follow the PDF as an example for the heights of the ceilings that you need in the specific locations. There are some areas where you need to have interesting type of ceilings. For instance, here in the front desk area, I would like for you to design a round ceiling. Essentially, it is called a cloud ceiling. And the way you go about designing it is go into Ceiling, click on Sketch, select Circle, and measure a certain distance, one and another. This way, you're going to create a ceiling at 10 feet high above the floor. In order to place a tag like mine, you want to go ahead and go to Annotate area and find Spot Elevation. And under Spot Elevation, you're looking for a specific type. You're looking for Target Relative, not Project, but relative, because it's going to refer to the level that you're basing it on. And relative base, as you can see, the current level. So you want to use the relative one and press a tag anywhere where you have a ceiling. If you don't have a ceiling, like in the corridor here, it will still give you the target elevation, but you're not in need of it. If you want to put a ceiling in an area where the walls are half walls, essentially the way you're going to go about doing this is using the sketch ceiling. But in order for you to see those walls, you first need to change in your overall first floor. If you go down to the underlay, you want to make sure you have range base level set up as first floor and range top level set up as second floor, and underlay orientation to be looked down. So what it does essentially is if you're looking from the second floor down to the first floor, so that you can see the outline of the elements shown on your floor plan. This way you're going to be able to see the half walls, and you can trace the outline of those half walls in your sketch ceiling option. Make sure you're not going to place a ceiling in the elevator area and the corridor. Same story repeats for the second floor, where you can see the tags. If you're going to see a hatch that appears like this, you can ignore this. This is not a specific type of ceiling. This is probably the concrete above is showing. So try to mirror the heights and the patterns that I have. For instance, in the restrooms, you have a 2x2 pattern at 9 feet, and in other areas, you have a 2x4 pattern. Third floor is very similar. In order for you to add the room tags to the same locations as I have, make sure to go to the annotate tag room and then put the tag room names in the correct location. Next point of interest in our building will be to put the windows, because we want to try to bring as much daylight as possible, but yet we want to try to make it economical and as well as give some purpose. For instance, you can see here, we're going to be using only one type of window, which we're going to modify from the existing one, because it will be easier and simpler for everyone to follow. So how do we add a window? You can go into the window area and go to the load family. And the one we're going to select essentially is the following: window sliding double. When you select it, you'll have an option of which one to choose. Go ahead and choose the 4x5 window and press OK. Once you've done it, you'll have an option to place it, but we actually want to first modify it. So let's go and select the window. You will have a different nomenclature here, and click on Edit, duplicate, and essentially create a 48-inch by 84-inch window. I already have one created, and this is how you do it. So you remove the two and change the name. Once you change the name, make sure you change the width to be 4 feet, the height to be 7 feet. And that's the only really things that you need to change in this specific window. Press OK. Then once you've done this, I want you to select that window or for any future window and make sure you uncheck exterior trim visibility, but keep the interior trim visibility and indicator visibility on. When you go to edit type again, make sure you uncheck the Muntin visibility right here. This is going to remove unnecessary grids in our windows. And you can follow the window layout sheets in the PDFs to place them in the correct location. Make sure you place them with an arrow always pointing to the right. And make sure that the window is located on the outer side of the wall, not on the inner side. And place the windows accordingly at the level height of 3 feet above ground. So 3 feet on the first floor, 3 feet sill height on the second floor, and the third floor. And you have elevations and floor plans for your reference. In order to add an elevator to your project, I have attached a Revit file which you need to download and essentially move into your project as a simple drag in. For instance, I right here have this file and I want to drag it inside. It will update it automatically, and once it does, you'll have a new family ready to use. For instance, now nothing appears, but if you press CM for component, you will see you have an elevator. The one you want to use is this one, the Passenger 2000. And make sure you roughly place it over here on this side, right lower than this column. When you select this elevator, I want you to change it to the following options. Elevation from level, -4 feet. Elevation number, 4 feet. And then make sure you change the bottom numbers to reflect what I have on the screen. Overrun 10 feet, distance 12 feet, 15 feet, and 16 feet and a half. Once you've done this, you should be able to see the elevator appear on all floors. Whenever you finish changing the settings for the elevator, you might see that there are some columns sticking out from your roof. An easy way to fix it, you need to push your roof higher than your existing location. And you can click on this roof and make sure you press the base offset from a specific location to be 2 feet higher. For instance, in my case, initially it was at 9 feet. And this is probably what you have on your screen. So what I did, I pushed it to 11 feet offset, and that issue was completely resolved. Lastly, what I would like for you to do is to draw another section through your elevator. So go ahead and go to the View tab, Section, and draw one that would go through the door of the elevator. You can start here and move it all the way through and then extend essentially your section from this end to this end of the building, so to make sure you cut the entire building. But once you do this, you also need to make sure that you draw this over to this area. Now, if you go to that section, you'll see you're cutting through the elevator and it stops perfectly at the level that you need. Once you finish with the ceilings, windows, and the elevator, next thing we want to do is to create a wall parapet. A wall parapet essentially works as a cap for our wall at the very top of our building. This is how it's going to look like. Go ahead and click on your exterior wall and go to Edit Type. In the Edit Type, go to the Preview section and go to Edit. And I will shrink my screen just a little bit. Now here you'll see I already have a parapet created, but how you want to do this is by going to the sweeps area and clicking add. And when you add something, you want to make sure you select the profile. The profile that you need is going to be called parapet cap precast 16 inches wide, which you have from the main menu. Then you change the material to be concrete, specifically concrete precast. Then you change the distance to be from top, orientation perpendicular, offset interior, and offset distance to be -1/2 inch. Again, it's -1/2 inch. Setback 0, flip none, cuts through wall, yes. Once you do this, essentially what you're going to look at is the following parapet, where the longer side slopes towards the exterior and the shorter towards the interior. And once you do that, all of your walls should have that parapet installed on them automatically. Finally, let's create a very basic site. Proceed to Site, Plan in your floor plans. And over here, you already see that I have created a basic site. But the way you want to do so is by going to the Massing and Site area and click on Topo Surface. Once you do this, you'll have an option to place points that will indicate the exact location of your site and the level of your site based on the entire project level. So for instance, if your project level starts at 0 feet, then if you're going to put your place point at 0 feet, you're not going to create any elevation. But if you put your point at -4 inches, like the very first points over here, what you're going to create essentially a site material that is going to be 4 inches below the first floor. And then if you create, and then if you changed it in the same view to 8 inches, and obviously do not go inside, but go outside of the perimeter you just created, then you're going to create an area that is sloping from this area to this area 4 inches. So you're going to have a sloped site. And follow the image that is shown in the attachments in order to find out the exact heights of the site that you need to slope it to. Once you're finished, the site is going to look like this. It's not going to be quite visible from this area, but if you look at the section view, you're going to see that the site is slightly sloping in the following direction. It's going to be flat right at the beginning, but then it's going to slope down. And this is a very quick look at what your building is supposed to look like once you finish with all of these tasks. This is the east elevation, and this is the overall 3D model that you need to look at. Lastly, I would like for you to clean up this, what seems to be two separate walls, which they are. And the way you can clean those is very simple. You want to go to the Architecture tab and then press on one of the walls. And when you press on one of these walls, press join geometry, or JJ in my case, because I created a shortcut for this. Press join geometry and select the top one as well as the bottom one. And what that does, it cleans up that edge between the two walls and makes it seamless. Once you've done this, you should have a pretty good sense of what the building is going to look like in the future. We're not quite done with the facade yet, but we're getting close. Thank you for watching.